My name is Alex Sunshine. I'm the founder of Rising Sun Agency. I founded the company back in 2019 when I noticed there was a need between influencer and brand interface on brand partnership deals. I've done over 225 brand deals, accumulating 7 figures worth of influencer contracted revenue. Um, and I got to work with some really awesome influencers and celebrities during my time. So it's been a blessing to be in a space that's so new.
Yeah. No, and it's dope to talk to you, Alex. Like, I mean, we connected on LinkedIn, as we both know, and I mean, more than anything, like, I kind of view you as like I think I brought it up when we were messaging, like you're kind of like the veteran here, and I'm a little bit more of like the rookie. Like the way that I kind of structure my agency is more like of a influencer incubator, and I feel like eventually to I definitely want to have infrastructure to build up to like something like along your lines. So like I'm also just like excited to talk to you, man, and see like how you view the space. And like let's just like talk, man. Like let's see like um we touched up on it like before we were recording, but like for those that don't know you, like how did you kind of get started in influencer marketing?
Yeah, so I want to just say one thing too, like, and I really mean this, saying a veteran in the influencer marketing space, I don't even believe in the veteran term. I think we're all in a really new industry, like all learning. So like, while years of experience might be the only reason you came to that conclusion, I think we all are crafting the space so much. So like we're I think we're laying the pavement into the future. So I see kind of see all of us as just kind of, rookies and learning the space. But how I got into industry was it was not in my college curriculum to do influencer marketing. But after school, I was doing like, corporate real estate sales. And I noticed that my girlfriend at the time had 20,000 followers on Instagram. And I didn't even really have an Instagram account. I was always kind of behind the eight ball with social media. I was still on Facebook thinking it was cool at the time. And I noticed that, she was getting a ton of likes on her social media posts. I noticed that companies were sending her a bunch of free products and she was getting invited to all these free events. And I was kind of coming along as like her plus one. And I'm like thinking like, how the hell did you even get started on this? And if you did, like, how did you get to a point where, you know, some of the biggest companies in the world that have been around for 100 years are looking to you to help them. And that's where the whole idea of like influencer and ambassador programs came from. And naturally, I just came back from my job and just wanted to kind of show up, after work and just help on brand sponsorships. I wanted to help her on press events. I wanted to, learn how to kind of grow the social media accounts. And in turn, going to all these events, I started networking with other influencers, and I wanted to learn more about the industry from them and, different industries, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, fitness. There
What
was
what niche was your girlfriend in?
She was fashion and beauty.
Okay.
So I met a lot of different fashion bloggers in her network which I learned was one of the key traits in growing was, everybody thinks that you just post on social media and you just grow alone and like everybody's just going to flock to you. And that's the biggest flawed logic ever. And so many people think that's how it's done. And they try and they stop. But the idea is like you have your content, but you're also building, relationships with other people trying to do the same thing. And you're mutually targeting, similar groups. And they like literally had, like messaging groups. And that's like what I learned early on, like just to get started, to get, some traction. It's like the best way to grow an influencer account is to work with other influencers. I mean, it's such an obvious concept, and obviously brands and companies were leveraging that, but specifically for influencers, there was no better way to help yourself than to help others and work with other people. So, um, that was probably one of the better learning lessons I had before even deciding to even think about going for my own agency.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think you bring up like a really good point that there's so many people who they want to become an influencer, or even they even like to generally speak, like people want to like achieve some sort of success, and they kind of like walk this path alone. And I feel like really where you find the most amount of success is when you surround yourself with people on the same journey. So like I 100% agree with you that like it only makes sense that if an influencer surrounds themselves with other influencers, that ultimately more opportunities are going to come, more growth opportunities, more brands. They're also able to network and like figure out like, oh, what are you charging for this? What are you charging for that? And it's like, I think creating like win-win, like symbiotic relationships is super powerful. And like
Oh,
that, and because like the influencer space is kind of so new and we're kind of on this edge, I think like it's just good to like put it out there into the world. It's like if you're a starting influencer, like make content, build up a bit of like a reputation for yourself, prove to yourself that like yeah, you are an influencer. And then from there it's like now find like your tribe and like just start winning. I think that's how Mr. Beast said that he started like killing it on YouTube. He had like his like friends or like his squad of other YouTubers who like they would just leverage each other's time to figure out, oh, which thumbnail is working the best, what's like allowing like the view duration to extend. So dude, 100%, I agree with you there.
yeah. And I love, again, it's so easy. Just look at the best in any industry, like Mr. Beast.
Mhm.
Um, and all those big people like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, like Amanda Cerny. You could look at, they all were work when they grew. And if you look at all their old videos, they were always collaborating in their comedic skits with other influencers. It was a lot. There were some that was just them, but a lot of the times, like the whole marketing end of the thing was like just promoting the videos and syndicating it on multiple their platform as well as someone else's. Not all the time similar size either. Like sometimes like Logan Paul had a knack for finding talent. They didn't have to necessarily be big, but like he found talented people and he used their talent on his own social channels. So there's a lot of ways to kind of skin the game and like or figure out a way to like kind of mutually grow. And one of the things I really liked most about Mr. Beast, in particular, was he doubles down on everything he was doing on his social media platform. So it's very common. If you look at some of the bigger people like that got started in social media, like Mac Miller or Justin Bieber, and they put out their music on YouTube, and then they got record deals, and they went, they got mass followings. Mr. Beast was just doubling down on like, hey, like I make money on YouTube, like I'm just going to keep reinvesting into my YouTube channel, and all his revenue was going right back into production. So that's why his channel was growing so big. He really put an emphasis on like making it like a Hollywood studio on YouTube. Like most influencers, they do production, they put resources into production, but they don't really, make large significant investments into each video the way Mr. Beast does. And he treats it, as such, like because at the end of the day, some of his videos have the same reach as a Super Bowl advertisement right now. So I mean, it really does make sense to treat it accordingly. And not just like saying, I'm just this is YouTube, but I'm going to go do something else after. It's like I'm a YouTuber and this is a channel and this has a ton of eyeballs and I could speak and share my mind and create content that I want because I own it too. You're not working for someone else that has to oversee it or make edits. Like it's his channel. He does what he wants. He gets to pursue his own ideas. And there's a large freedom in that. They're democratizing entertainment, in my opinion, with social media.
Dude, yeah. And kind of like to touch up on that, since we're kind of like you brought up a good point with influencers have the freedom and almost like the leverage to choose like who they want to partner with, who they want to be investing into their videos. And I guess that's kind of like where sponsorships, where brand deals come in. And I'm curious, like from your kind of experience with your like almost reps in talking to other brands and like I guess kind of the economy of like the influencer brand partnerships, like what are you kind of seeing is like the general theme and like what can someone take away to maybe get more brand deals or get a better deal um for like a brand deal and like promote onto their page as an influencer.
Yeah, so I think the key thing, and this is something not only that, I could understand an influencer eventually learning, but even as an agent for influencers and something that I had to learn is you got to come from a place of empathy with the brand. So you have to think about why would brand would want to partner with you and keep in mind, like, it's always great to proposition them, like, to charge X amount for like my post or, you know, trying to pitch them like why the partnership's going to work. But at the end of the day, like, what brands are really looking for at the end of the day is they want customers, and if you're an influencer and you would be willing to put down your own credit card to buy their products and you're already in their customer base, and furthermore, you're already creating content that you would probably use as part of a promotion with that specific brand. That's probably going to be a much stronger, warmer angle to getting a brand partnership. So when you do approach them, you're already coming from a place of like we're almost kind of partnering together, and you could create more of a marriage in the sense where we're integrating, your products into the content I'm already creating.
Mm.
Um, I know, what the reach has worked on these posts, and we could have like, you could share case studies and like you could share like projections based on previous brand partnerships. I know some influencers might not have previous brand partnerships, but that's still okay as long as you're coming from a place of like I want to be married to my brand partners in a long period of time, not just say like I want to bill you as much as possible for as long as possible, but like understanding the economics of a brand founder and what goes into making significant investments into influencer marketing. And I think that's where things are getting interesting, which kind of brings me to the point of like a creator-owned business.
Mm.
Um, the pay per most model is a guideline for valuations and stuff, but is there a structure where you could kind of, instead of just saying, hey, like pay me this for a post, and if something, you don't get any sales or the views were down because of the sponsorship algorithm, like sorry, like, and then it's kind of like churn and burn and find another brand and then they'll pay that price. Like, why not create a structure where it's not commission either? Because I understand that it's not like, get a percentage of each sale, and it won't even account for attributable revenue on other units you might sell, or it won't even account for, the lifetime value of the purchases, or there's all those factors. You could have these conversations about royalty deals on your own product line. You could have these conversations about, an equity portion, and you're really kind of getting in bed with the founders. And I think that's the shift from influencers are just a bunch of sales rep for a brand, which I think worked for a lot of companies 4 or 5 years ago, where they were just growing overnight. They just got everybody in the market, it was extremely profitable. Now, like, all right, we got a budget and a revenue threshold that we're going to put towards influencer marketing. Pick one or two or three of the best people and get in bed together, make it more of a partnership and grow together. And, the brands won't have to necessarily worry about, risking too much, but they will pay on a revenue threshold. So there's a variety of, I think, structures that can be had in these partnerships that are not just like, hey, pay me no matter what, but, let's just make sure it actually accounts for what I'm driving to the company. And realizing this is a real leg of the business. And I think it'll be more organic too. I mean, some of the best collaborations, like I walked into like Van Leeuwen and like, they did a partnership with Knives Out, the movie. Like it was like on one of the ice cream pints. Like that's fun and cool. And like that's the type of stuff you can be doing. Like if you want to promote a product, put your name on it, and like and do those types of deals. So to me, that's where I think, the future is going to be going, and just getting a deep dive understanding of what a creator-owned business is, because a lot of times, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that the influencer like went into the R&D lab themselves and started the company. Like, yeah, they could be part of that R&D process and helping craft the products and creating their own line and stuff. But no matter how you want to slice and dice it, like, there's somebody else that has to do the distribution and worry about the supply chain and the finances, and somebody's got to create the content. So find ways to effectively partner together in that manner. And I think that's what the conversation is going to start to be.
Yeah, dude, yeah, 100%. And that goes into how some of the best and most successful influencers are not necessarily thinking like influencers or content creators, but they're thinking like business people. They're thinking like entrepreneurs. And I think that's where, if I was like a beginning influencer, like if I knew not, if I was just like getting my toes wet in the space, and like I think there's the whole term of like UGC creators now, which is super big. That's like back then, like I remember like a couple years ago, like UGC creators were like, oh, okay, like bro, okay, you do video, you're an influencer, bro. Whatever, call yourself a UGC creator if you want. Um, but it's like I feel like those are like the baby steps. It's like, yeah, you can go ahead and you can make a video for a brand and you can get paid for it, but take your time to like level up, like pick up a business book, pick up like ways of like how are like businesses getting funded, how are they like structuring, how can like how do you even structure a royalty like deal, like how what is like the expected like amount of money that someone can like raise for like a CPG brand. And I mean, I don't necessarily have all the answers for that, but I think like if I was an influencer, instead of learning how to make better content, I would learn how to be a better businessman. Because you can learn content along the way. Like you're gonna get the reps in of making content. And with the algorithm nowadays, it's like you can make the most beautiful piece of content and it might flop. So it's like, why not just like shift the perspective? Like, let's think long term. Like, how can we talk about entering as a partner and maybe like make it all the way to exit?
You're spot on. And I think that's the key thing is, and I think if I have to touch on it, like influencers have to realize whether they want to or not, that if they want to be seen as an employee, which, if you become an influencer, you have the drive to do that and start a channel and create content. It's not an employee gig. You are an entrepreneur, you are a business owner. And whoever, I don't care if it's an agency or a brand, whoever wants to treat you as anything other than that, you are an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, you have to find ways to understand the business side of this equation, especially when you're partnering with other companies. If you wanted to put your own feet into it and do it yourself, I'd be my guest and try. And a lot of them do, and they're extremely successful. But if you really just want to solely create content, which I think you double down your strength and find people that could help you create a product that you genuinely want to promote to your audience and believe in, find those right partners and be in bed with them and don't create I guess, a churn and burn situation, because there's a bunch of brand demand. While I understand it might work in the short term to make a lot of money, in the long run, especially what you're seeing now in the economy, brands are smartening up. Founders talk to each other, and what's considered to be a very strong channel, in my opinion, still influencer marketing, which is a marketing channel that so many companies could have dreamed of having in previous generations. Like they couldn't track attributable revenue on a billboard, or really a radio ad. Like this is a truly unique opportunity for marketers in today's world. Just finding ways to be a little bit more empathetic in these partnerships, learning the long game of this and making sure it's economically feasible. That brands aren't looking at their, marketing costs and being like, this is what's going to have to get cut. And, it shouldn't be like a luxury to do influencer marketing. It should be like a necessity and something that should always be accounted for each month, making sure that content's being promoted on the web and staying relevant. So that's like my point of advice to influencers and going and understanding the difference between being an employee and being an owner. If you want just a salary from a brand, and that's what a lot of them do, that's fine. And those are fixed rates. And you have to make sure that the pricing model makes sense to a company. But if you really, want to make a bet on yourself, there's a lot of ways to explore partnerships, I think, where companies would be happy to pay you even more than the typical fixed rates are if it's successful and it works. So these are conversations I encourage, especially in these partnerships, to like be very creative in these deal structures, because I can't even imagine the amazing deals that could have happened that just never made it to the starting gate because there was some poor negotiation tactics on both sides where the brand wanted to pay a really inconsiderate offer or something that's just not reasonable at all. And the influencer on the other side too, but just wants 5 times the amount of dollars that like it really might be worth, at least over the surface, without any proof of concept or evidence of it working. So these are just all things I think that are going to be important to drive the industry forward, because it's a great recipe, it's a great formula. And, I think it's our job as managers and agents, and reason why we're in this business and helping is making sure that this is working for both sides.
Yeah. I think we like as an agency and agents like in this space, like we're really like that middleman to like connect the two, connect brands, connect companies, and connect talent. Um and so it's kind of like our job to like educate the talent, but then also educate the brands and the companies. Like, Alex, what do you feel is something, because we talked a lot about like what influencers should be kind of shifting towards. What do you wish like more brands knew that was kind of like already kind of like standard, like when you come into like a meeting, or like, yeah, like what's something that you wish more companies kind of knew?
So I would probably say the things that I wish companies had a better understanding of is that, like any other form of advertising, it is a high risk, high reward situation, even in, the best scenarios. And I do think that there's ways to mitigate the risk and making it more like mutually scalable. But, there's always going to be I guess, a trial period finding your product market fit, finding your correct audience, especially if you're on the newer, within the first year of your operation, and finding, content that actually resonates with the audience and speaks to the key features of the product, and not discounting, the campaigns maybe that don't work off the bat, and really redefining what success really means. Obviously, you want to see, if you put a $10,000 budget into a campaign, everybody would love to see, 20, 30, or $40,000 returned in a 24-hour period of the post going live. But that's just not how anything in, the economy works. I think that there's so many metrics now where you could run through the comment section and see the feedback and get, if you do any market survey, like there's no better way than to do an influencer promotion and seeing the feedback in the comments from potential customers about the product. There's no better way to assess, the marketplace and seeing, why something did or didn't sell. If a product goes, live in 24 hours and there weren't any sales, like you have to ask why. That's valuable. It's just as valuable as getting the sale. And if it's, whether it's the influencer or the product, or if it's the audience, even figure out why. And then also, I would say the other key thing that I think brands need to know, but could do better, is when you have an asset, if you do a big promotion, you put a big budget behind it, that's not the only thing that could also go into the asset. So for example, if you work with a really cool influencer and they do a good promotion, bring it to press, like try to, get other people to pick up why this is such a cool promotion, come up with a unique story angle, because media outlets are looking for stories to run every day. You're giving them something that they need, and you could reach another audience from the asset you already paid for and created. So utilize that asset on other platforms. Furthermore, what I'd say is there's other ways to repurpose the content. You could get usage rights, or you could ask for whitelisting rights with influencers, and you could put additional media spend behind, what should be a high performing piece of content, and putting it out there on your email blast. You could use the partnership on the landing page of your website. So any traffic that they get, there's Daniela, I'm a big fan of hers and I could purchase the product, or and kind of putting a recognizable face. So I think it's just about getting creative and finding ways to compound, the investment from the assets you create, and not just relying just on that one piece of, content. Even other influencers, if it's a really good campaign, they might want to reshare it. Like they have people in their network that could reshare the post, and that circulates and it drives shares and replies. And that's kind of the game of social media. It's that you have to be social about it. You have to find a way to utilize the entire network as much as possible. And every asset that goes into your content library has to be leveraged effectively. It should never just go into the trash bin and never used again. Even if it wasn't good, know why it wasn't good.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, I think something that I like, a common theme that I've seen kind of in this space right now with influencer marketing, is that there's kind of like these other agencies who build these softwares, and they go into like the mindset, or like the way that they craft their offer and their service is like, let's just like do mass outreach.
yeah.
Let's throw a giant net into the ocean. Let's try to get hundreds of thousands of influencers like free product. And like that's great and all, like if you're seeding and like you're maybe like just starting off, I guess. But definitely it's like you're able to build something more long term when you have like these like solid core relationships of like influencers who like represent your brand, and like really just ride it all out with them. But I can see how it can be kind of like nerve-wracking as a brand to like put all of your like marbles on like a couple influencers. Like what would you say would be the best way for a brand to like know if an influencer is like a good fit for them? And like I guess kind of like almost like dating advice, like how do you know like if this is the one you want to marry?
You took the words out of my mouth on that one, because I was literally just about to use the dating app example. So you made mention that, brands are reaching out to tens of thousands of influencers. And I can make the same argument that I think influencers are also reaching out to tens of thousands of brands. And I think they're basically trying to leverage each other at mass scale and do a million transactions at once. Like both sides feel the need to do so, which is, again, like I think it's treating the industry in the wrong capacity, because a lot of times they're reaching out to brands they've never tried. that maybe not be in the niche or even relevant to their content. And brand marketing dollars are too valuable to waste on a piece of content that's not actually geared towards that influencer's audience. They don't if they even if they wanted to, they couldn't finance the entire influencer marketplace. There has to be a selection process. So I guess, similar to dating, everybody swipe, 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 swipe. I don't think anybody's ever gotten a girlfriend or boyfriend that way from consistently swiping. I mean, it sounds to me like it's more casual and there's transactional value. And I think that's the key thing is when you go after a partnership, how do you move over from the transactional value of it to actually, like I said, going in bed and marrying each other? And, one of the things that it starts with, again, it doesn't matter who initiates it. If the brand wants to initiate and wants to send products for free, no strings attached, just to get the relationship off the ground and getting feedback, great. If they find somebody, and again, they have a customer base, like if they find someone in their customer base that happens to also be an influencer, reach out to them and say like, hey, I noticed you bought products. Like, I'd love to send you some for free. I noticed that like you're a genuine fan. I think your content, you could create that side of the equation. And the same thing for an influencer as well. Is if your first email to them is here are my rates, it's like you're sending that to 10,000 people. So like, be a little bit thoughtful on the pitch. You can put a little bit of time. Obviously, you can't put, a day's worth of work into one pitch and, that's your day's work and you can't make bread, at the end of the month. But
Yeah.
it's just about being a little bit more thoughtful. Obviously, both sides leverage their agencies for this reason, like who they should be targeting and what partnerships should be looking like and making sure that it runs smoothly. So I think it just comes down to being more thoughtful, slowing down, picking the right things. Both sides obviously don't want to sell themselves short on a partnership. Influencer doesn't want to, take on, brand equity space in their platform for little money. And I think on a brand side of the equation, they definitely don't want to be overspending, when they feel like they have so many options. But build a relationship before it even gets to a transaction. One of the key things that I've noticed that I think has been really helpful moving the needle on these partnerships is getting on the phone with each other. Something I've been doing a lot is let the brand founder and the influencer speak to each other before executing the deal. I don't know why this is the only industry where you can't talk to both sides and I know like we do those calls, but God, how many deals were signed between influencers and brands where it was just like on a platform and they don't even talk to each other. They don't know anything about each other. Like, you're getting into business together, you should at least know who it is, and the content you see online, as authentic as it can be at times, I promise you there's going to be things about about the influencers that you don't know from their online presence, because the smartest influencers in the space keep a private persona on certain things that are private, and you can build those relationships with the brand. So that's a key unlock button, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it's funny too that we both kind of got into this space like dating an influencer in a sense,
Yeah.
which it's like I think it really business and like relationships like dating, I feel like it all just goes so hand in hand. And the people who can like balance those two really well. Like I've always said, like I have like some girlfriends of mine, and like they ask me like, oh, like, well, what are some of your secrets? Like, how do you go about dating? And like I feel like I always respond like, oh, like I sell the same way that I date. Like if you see me on a sales call, like I'm probably like the same. Like I'm asking questions. Like I'm making it about them, and like 100%. Like both parties need to be coming in with the idea of like, let me build a relationship. And if you're just, it's also this, not to get so like cheesy, but it's like this generation right now with the power of social media, there's so many options. It's like overwhelming the amount of options that there are. And it's like maybe I can get how there's like this fear around, oh, maybe I'm picking the wrong person, and that I guess that aligns with dating, and but more specifically like the influencer business relationship. And I think just knowing that the same way in dating, it's like if you can wake up next to someone, and it's funny how this has gone down this path, but if you can wake up next to someone like you're not even that attracted to them, like they're like messy hair, like you're already annoyed with them, but you can still genuinely say like, yo, like I love this person. If you can kind of bring that essence of like, yeah, maybe this influencer like hasn't really been promoting the way that I've been expecting, or this post flopped or that post. It's like, yeah, like on the micro, we can go ahead and we can get nitty gritty. But if we just take a step back and it's like, yo, I really believe in this influencer. I'm happy with the content. I believe that they can be the next Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, Emma Chamberlain. It's like, and that's kind of like what we're building towards, knowing that both of like the visions of line align as a brand and as an influencer. Um, that's really like where magic happens. Like you told me, like Michael Jordan and like Nike, like they created that partnership when probably, I mean, we can only assume like they weren't even in a financial position to be like, am I gonna bet all of my like my coins on this rookie? And it's like, but they did, and now it's one of the most successful partnerships in the world. So
Recognize the potential of Jordan. And that's what you have to kind of do with influencers at times too. It's like you have to recognize the potential of the partnership. And, I think if you're just going into it like trying to get a good deal or trying to find just the quickest road to an ROI, and it makes sense for small brands. I get this, and that's where the empathy has to come in. But like the biggest companies in the world know like they need to make, bets on potential because you never know if they sign, the next Jordan. Um, you know, so it's an interesting space. I love how romantic you are about it too. Like, the post flops or, maybe they're messy in the morning, like waking up. Like it's so true. Like I think, and that applies to I think any business owner. Like there's going to be rough patches. Like there's never a clean slate. You have to like assess when things going off path. And it's again, I know why that's why there's a lot of trial runs and one post runs and um, but don't just always assess it based on performance. Like was the content good? Is the relationship strong? Are you actually exploring all avenues into making the content better? Is what was the feedback from customers like or potential followers or like what were they saying that indicates future success as well? Are you looking at the bottom line? When you from the date you started the influencer marketing program all the way through, have you seen a tick up in sales both in online or retail? And as long as the operation is running smoothly, at the end of the day, like it wouldn't, I think influencer marketing would be the last place to be like, I'm going to pull marketing dollars from there.
yeah.
Um, so it's not going anywhere. I think we all want to perfect the model to the best of our abilities based on knowledge we've had. And if I had to define it in a nutshell, from 2019 probably till 2021 when I was in this space, like it was very, I think, brand friendly. And I think a lot of influencers were getting the maybe the lower, shorter end of the stick. And I'd say honestly, more recently, I think that, you know, influencers been making out pretty nice during a really rough patch in our economy. And I think brands might be finding themselves overpaying a little bit or not seeing the same returns that they were seeing a few years ago. Just talking to a bunch of people in the space. And I think it's time to create the conversation like, all right, like, let's not make sure that one side is getting the short end of the stick. Let's get married where we're both actually happy. And again, any side could read through that pretty easily in the early going of the relationship. And it starts from the very first email. So next time you send out an email to a brand and same thing for a brand reaching out to an influencer, like why are you reaching out to that person? Are they just a number on a spreadsheet or do you actually see an actually good reason to partner with them? So that's why I guess we're in this pie as well as we're helping them. So um
Yeah.
yeah, but I appreciate also setting this call up. I
Yeah,
think this
I think it's been a really insightful call. It's definitely given me some insight. I think the listeners are gonna get some insight, and definitely like this influencer marketing space, like it's definitely not going anywhere. I really like. I'm the only reason I'm even here right now is because like I see it in decades. I used to just be like media. I used to just be video production, and like I I shifted into influencers because like I genuinely think like decades from now, it's like we're not going to see celebrities. They're just celebrities like in the movies. Like we're going to see the influencer who started off on Instagram or TikTok now be like on a feature film. And like that's where I'm kind of betting my marbles for sure.